Hey guys, this is Tauna, and today we're going to be talking about Vren the Relentless, which I thought that previously Cruel Claw was going to be my favorite commander from this set, but Vren is going to be pretty up there. Honestly, I love the kind of flavor that they've been putting into a lot of the different legendary creatures here. Now, over on my channel, we primarily talk about, commander and stuff like that. So if you're here and not talking about commander, then I don't know how this is going to go in standard or modern or anything, so don't bother asking me that. But in commander, I think this is going to be a crazy, really fun commander, and not even necessarily just for like a rat, tribal, kindred deck or anything. It's going to be pretty good in a lot of different decks. Before we get into it, make sure that you head on down to the description, subscribe, like the video, share it around to your friends, please. We're trying to grow up our channel as much as possible, so that kind of free support goes a very long way. So Vren is one of obviously the new rats that is coming with the next Bloomburrow set. He basically works by anytime an opponent's creature that they control dies, it gets exiled. Now keep in mind that two things: that has to be a creature, not a creature card, so you can't just mill them or anything like that. It has to be an actual creature that is on the board, and they also have to die. So if you've got other things that are like, when a creature dies, do this, it is not going to work, unfortunately, for it. So when a creature an opponent controls dies, exile it instead, and then at the beginning of each end step, you get to create a whole bunch of black rat creature tokens that have this creature gets +1/+1 for each other rat you control, where X is the number of creatures your opponent controlled that were exiled this turn. So a couple different things at the end of each end step, so it will work on opponents' end steps as well. They are all basically creatures that are relentless rats. Well, he's called Relentless Rat, like he's called the Relentless because, relentless rats, but it's kind of a combination between Relentless Rats because of the name and stuff, and getting +1/+1, and then a rat colony. So rat colony obviously gives, buffs them based on every rat. So and then it's going to be where X is the number of creatures your opponent's controlled. So if you exile 2 things from each person, then you will get, 6 rats, right? In a 4-player commander game, if you exile 2 things from each opponent, boom. It does have to be opponents controlled, so you can't flicker your own stuff. Flicker's not going to work unless you've got ETBs that make things removal or something like that. You're not going to be able to get that, but or if you flicker someone's opponent's stuff, so we'll get to that in a minute. All right, so anything that is exiled as well. So it can be exiled and then brought back. So if you're versing someone who has a flicker deck, this is going to work. The interesting thing here is that this is a little bit different to the rest of the rats within the set. The rest of the rats within the set seem to be mostly around threshold, so that is cards in your graveyard. It does have to just be cards in your graveyard though, so I think it kind of combines when you think about some of the cards you're going to be potentially putting into this. I'll talk about those in a minute too, but so some of the cards that you'll be putting into this potential deck, they will work with this kind of threshold stuff, so you can use the rats that are coming with us, but primarily they kind of don't work entirely together. All right, so let's go through a number of different cards that I found that you could potentially use in a deck with him. I'm not building a deck for it at the moment. If you guys are interested in, would you prefer these videos to have like a full deck built for them, or are you happy to just go through different cards you can potentially use and then you guys build a deck? Maybe in the future, I'll build a deck for this guy, but I wanted to kind of get the video out quickly because I am incredibly excited. All right, so let's go through. The first one that I thought of straight away was Grave Pact, right? We're going to be summoning a whole bunch of rats that we can then sacrifice with a lot of different things. Let's just say we sack them with Phyrexian Altar. So then we're getting black mana and stuff. We sack them with one of the altars, and then we're going to be making it so that everyone else has to sacrifice a creature. That is going to be 3 different procs if each person had a creature out at the time. Very bonkers, very strong, because then from that one creature you sacrificed, you're then going to get to create 3 different rats, right? It's going to be crazy. You can also do this on other people's turn as well, because the altars aren't sorcery speed or anything, so you can technically sack them on any time, any person's turn, sack something, destroy stuff. You can do it, and then you just continue on and barrel out. It's crazy. We've got something like the Seasonal Loss, which is the new one, causes people to sacrifice creatures. So anything that causes opponents to sacrifice creatures will potentially be good in this deck, because you also will then be able to go and sack your rats. Everyone else has to sack stuff. It's going to bypass, indestructible, and bypass like ward and stuff, because they're sacking it, you're not targeting it. They have to do it. So, Rancor, when he hits, boom, now they're going to have to sack something. Barter in Blood, cause people to sack 2 creatures. Everyone has to sack things. You have to sack your stuff. But from there, you're going to be able to get more rats to be able to sack later. Living Death, I think, is a big game finisher, right? You're going to exile all creature cards from people's graveyards. You're going to make them sacrifice all creatures that will then all get put into the exile. So these ones here will all count, and then you're going to get to bring all of your cards back from the graveyard. They won't have any cards in the graveyard, because you've just, all their cards have just been going into exile. So you're going to basically get to do a one-sided board wipe. You lose your commander as well. Say, for example, your commander dies. He goes into the graveyard. You do this. You exile everything. You then bring it all back. Your commander comes back. Oh, look, every person had, 5 things that got exiled. You're bringing back your commander plus 15 rats plus whatever else you had in your graveyard. Boom. We've got Toxrill. You're going to slowly stack up these slime counters on everything. And then from there, you get to create a whole bunch of slug tokens, and then also create a whole bunch of, rats as well. You got Ogre Slumlord. Now, the interesting thing with Ogre Slumlord is that he does kind of have a little bit of negative synergy. I've included him in here because he will give all your rats Death Touch, so you can get some early procs to be able to get the ball rolling. But this part here, whenever a non-token creature dies, you won't get that unless it's your non-token creatures, because your opponent's creatures do die. They don't die. They go to exile instead. Does that make sense? Opponent's creatures don't die, they go to exile, so you won't get this part, but you will be able to give all your 1/1 rats, Death Touch, to be able to get some easy procs. Kalitas. So Kalitas means that when a non-token creature an opponent controls dies, it will exile and then create a black zombie. So from here, you're going to be able to create a black zombie with Kalitas. Then you'll also create the rats from Vren. So you're going to swamp with, zombies, swamp with rats. You can then sack your zombies, etc. Mirror of Life Trapping. This is actually a very interesting one. It's a very cheap card, 9 cents. And it's a flicker card. However, similar to a flicker card. It's whenever a creature enters the battlefield, if it was cast, you're going to exile it, then return all other permanent cards exiled with it to the battlefield under their owner's control. So essentially, whenever a creature an opponent plays, anytime they cast a creature, it's going to get exiled. Therefore, Vren's going to proc off each creature an opponent casts. Bonkers. Roaming Throne, I've included this one in here purely because it needs to be included in any kind of deck that's revolving kind of around their commander, but also, you can potentially make this Vren deck into a rat tribal deck if you want to. And, you're going to then just double all the triggers, which means it's going to double all of the rat tokens you create. Get that? Like, if you're going to create 3 rat tokens, you're creating 6. And then those 6 will all get, an additional +1/+1 for each other rat. Insane. All right. Now, the way you could easily make this deck is a control deck. So this is, talking about like exiling opponent stuff. You've got, you can exile stuff. It's going to count, right? Because they are exiling opponents' cards. It does have to be creature cards. It does have to be creatures, not creature cards. So you have to exile stuff from actual, like, on the field. So like something like Deadly Rollick, you'll get to be able to play for free and stuff. Exile, Early Winter, exile something. But you don't even need to necessarily exile. Because of the way Vren works, it's whenever an opponent's creature dies, exile it. You can also just use straight up removal, right? Or make it so like straight up removal. destroy creature. Boom, that's going to get exiled now. Or you could even like just cause people to sacrifice their stuff. Something like Archon of Cruelty. You enter the battlefield, target opponent sacks something. You attack, so target opponent sacks something. Here, Butcher of Malakar. Whenever one of your creature dies, opponent sacks something. Consumed by Greed, one of the new cards here. Target opponent sacks a creature. You know, this is going to bypass ward. It's going to bypass, you know, unfortunately, you know, most of the time you won't get to choose it because it's just they sack it. So they can choose to sack one of their tokens or something. But keep in mind that the token will die. Instead, it will go to exile. It still counts as going to exile, even though it immediately ceases to exist. The like token ceases to exist. You can't get it back from exile or anything. It does technically go to exile, and it's just creatures that were exiled this turn. Doesn't mean they have to stay in exile, because you know you can flicker opponent's stuff, or if they're flickering their stuff. Something like Kindred Dominance as well, if you are going the rat tribal, is going to be good because you can just choose rat and then sack everyone else's stuff. Boom, you've now got, you know, even if you haven't gone rat tribal, this is still potentially going to be a game ender if everyone else has a board built up. Even if you have, you know, other stuff out at the time, you can make all of their stuff die. Therefore, at the end of your turn, you're then going to create, you know, let's say 10 different rats. These rats are all going to be, you know, 11 11s, sorry, 12 12s, because say, for example, you get 10 rats out. They're already 1/1s, plus you've got Vren, that's 12 12, if I'm doing the maths correct. All right, what was the last one here? The last ones here are game enders. So Immerse is potentially going to be a game ender, because of the fact that all of your opponent's cards are going to go into exile when their creatures die. Therefore, each time you kill something and it's going into exile, Immerse is going to go up by 1/1. Right? So you can get this dude up so high. And then finally, Rite of Consumption. You're going to sack something, you're going to deal damage equal to that, and then gain life equal to that. If you happen to have had somehow get Vren up to, say, let's say we've got 10 rats out plus Vren, as we were talking about before, that's a 12 12. We can use Rite of Consumption, sack that creature, throw that 12 12 rat at someone. We gain 12 life. They deal 12 damage. You deal 12 damage to their face. And then let's say you've got Grave Pact out as well. Then they're all going to sack something. And therefore, you know, you're going to get 3 rats at the end of turn. And then from there, let's say, for example, we've got Kelatus out. We're then going to also create 3 zombies. It can get out of hand really quickly. So let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Have a great day and goodbye.